You're all set.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So, good morning. My name is Renata Ruiz. I'm a senior AI business solution specialist here at Microsoft. That is just a fancy way Microsoft likes to say that I focus on personal productivity using Microsoft 365 Copilot, Copilot Chat, and the ability to build agents in Agent Builder. I have been working with SUNY for the last 3 years and have been enrolled at Microsoft for 5. My role has changed just a little bit recently around, like, with that focus around personal productivity. Today, we're going to talk about Copilot Chat specifically, which you have access to at no additional cost with your M365 licenses, your academic licenses. So no matter if you are an A3 or an A5 campus, and if you don't know if you are, that's okay. You all have access to Copilot Chat with those licenses. So there might be times today where if questions arise, um, that is asking about a feature that is in the licensed version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, I will make that distinction. But we at Microsoft like to name things the same thing. And so it can get a little bit confusing. But for today's purpose, I don't really want to spend too much time talking about things you don't have access to. I want to focus on what you do have access to, and that's Copilot Chat. And so, if you've ever seen me present before, I love starting with this slide because it really highlights how quickly this technology is moving. This chart is showing how long it's taken certain technologies to reach 100 million users. I'm pretty sure everyone on this call has a mobile device somewhere nearby. That took 16 years to hit 100 million users. That chat GPT line is pretty much straight up and down. It took 3 months. And so when we see that growth curve, that is not a curve at all. Uh, we know that people are excited about the potential for AI to make us even more productive, but we also are aware that that means that this technology is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, that it's going to continue to evolve. And so when we think about that from the education landscape, what does that mean? And so the education industry is actually one of the highest users of generative AI. The usage jumped significantly from 2023 at 45% to nearly doubling in 2024 at 86. And I'm sure that that number will continue to rise when we're looking at 2025. This rapid growth highlights the game-changing impact AI is having on educational landscapes. There are AI-driven analytics that are helping institutions make decisions by providing real-time data on student performance and operational efficiency. So while AI is streamlining administrative processes in admissions and financial aid and student services, we're also thinking about what that means for preparing the students at these institutions for the future of work. This technology is moving very quickly. New features and updates are happening. New models are being released on a regular basis. And so, as we think about what our students are studying or getting ready for, how do we change the way we we instruct in order to make sure that they're ready for what the workforce will look like in the next couple of years? When we announced Copilot a couple, maybe 2 years ago, we really were envisioning it as starting with people. We named it Copilot, not Autopilot, because there is some human ingenuity that's important here. There's always a human in the room. And so we're envisioning everyone having access to Copilot as their trusted AI assistant, Copilot understanding you and the way you work, and then providing a consistent user experience to interact with the AI. And then in January of this year, we rolled out the availability of building agents for every end user. Agents are augmenting Copilot by adding skills and knowledge to automate certain tasks and business processes. So, just like everyone today has a smartphone with many apps, we're envisioning a situation where everyone has access to a Copilot with many agents. So when we think about Copilot with the addition of agents, Copilot is really designed for the human. It is your private personal assistant. Everyone has a Copilot, and then agents are connected to Copilot to help automate tasks and processes, and every process can have an agent. For education, we are very focused at Microsoft on providing access across the education space. So we're bringing AI to education at no additional cost with Copilot Chat. I'm going to say the words no additional cost probably a couple more times because it really is different than calling something free. Copilot for Enterprise, which is what you have access to with your academic license, includes an additional layer of security that's really important when we're thinking about prompting against work or school information. So at its core, Copilot Chat is a secure web-grounded AI chat that can be accessed through an app or the web browser and is also available in 4 Microsoft 365 productivity apps. We released Copilot Chat in these 4 apps in September, really pulling the power of Copilot Chat into the spaces that you're working in regularly. We also integrated those agents that are part of that chat experience in Copilot Chat and can be controlled from the IT standpoint with some management around both Copilot Chat and agents. So, what does enterprise data protection mean? So, that additional layer of protection that's included with your academic license is really the key differentiator from when you use something, a generative AI tool that is not built for enterprise. So, let me take a look here in Zoom. Just by, I'm assuming you could thumbs up in Zoom. I apologize. I live most of my life in Teams and not Zoom, but I would love to see, or in the chat, what generative AI tool do you use most frequently? I'm not going to be offended if you don't say it's Copilot, but I just want to get a general idea. I'm assuming that people have used ChatGPT, Claude. Okay, ChatGPT. And those of you who are using ChatGPT or Claude, are you using a paid version of that or are you using a free version, unpaid? Okay, free version. Awesome. Thank you for giving me that information. So when you use ChatGPT, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, I use ChatGPT from time to time. It's important to know that what you are prompting in ChatGPT is training the model that OpenAI is building. So any information that you're putting in there, if it's academic, like intellectual property, that is training the model. And so when you think about using a generative AI tool for specific situations with school or work data, it might be best practice. I would suggest using a GPT tool that is designed for enterprise, which is what Microsoft is. Microsoft takes security and privacy very seriously. So the 5 bullets that you're seeing on this slide are the key differentiators from using a tool built for enterprise versus one that is not. And so I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to give you some examples to think about around utilizing a tool that is safe and secure. So all of these bullets here, all of these links are live links that will bring you into a Microsoft Learn document. You can go ahead if this interests you or you want a little more information, click on any of these and it'll bring you to the right documentation. So number one, we secure your data. Your data is encrypted at rest and in transit. There is no way of your data getting crossed in a different tenant. So your environment, depending on what institution you're in, even against a different SUNY institution, there's data isolation between tenants. So no one will ever have access to data from your specific environment. Your data is private, so we don't use your data for anything unless you instruct us to. There are privacy commitments that are part of that Microsoft contract that your institution has. Your access controls and policies apply to Copilot, meaning however central IT at your institution has set up M365 as a whole, Copilot will inherit those policies and controls automatically. So it's respecting any identity models. So however you're set up in your institution, I'm Renata Ruiz, I'm a senior AI business solution specialist. Copilot understands that and will only give me access to what I have access to. Permissions, sensitivity labels, retention policies. So if your institution, if your central IT has set up sensitivity labeling within your Microsoft environment, those apply automatically when you're using Copilot as well. You're protected against AI security and copyright risks. So there's safeguards or guardrails around harmful content, hurtful, hateful content, any prompt injection. So if someone prompts for something that could be potentially dangerous, Copilot will kick back and say that it goes against their responsible AI policies. And then for content copyright concerns, there's protected material detection. So for example, if I prompted Copilot to create a image of me as Spider-Man, and I use the word Spider-Man, Copilot will kick back and say, it cannot do that. Spider-Man is a copyrighted term and image. And then finally, your data isn't used to train the foundation models. This is the biggest piece here. So prompts, responses, any data accessed through the Microsoft Graph, which is technically like your version of your thumbprint, Microsoft thumbprint, aren't used to train foundation models. So you are technically utilizing or benefiting from that large language model, but you are not contributing to it. So like I mentioned, intellectual property. If you wrote a play or you're a screenwriter and you attached that information into one of your prompts using Copilot Chat, that is not going out into the large language model to train it. I'm seeing a question in the chat here. Is the data used to train within the institution itself? It is not, Jeremy. So what ends up happening, and that kind of leads me to the next point, is when you prompt, and in order for Copilot to remember and build memories and keep a log of your conversation, an exchange folder is created for your Copilot chat conversations. An exchange folder is exactly the type of folder that houses your emails. And so you'll have access to your conversations, your history, depending on what the retention policy is set up for your institution. And technically, IT could audit if they needed to, but it's not going out. However, your prompting is not being saved for the institution as a whole. It's just for you. So everything stays within the Microsoft 365 service boundary. And then individually, you'll have an exchange folder that houses all of those conversations that you've had with Copilot. I'm going to pause and see anyone else has any questions. I know this is like an important piece, so I will make sure I can answer anything. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so there are multiple ways to access Copilot depending on what you prefer. Today, I'm going to demo from the web version, the web app, just because it's easier to share my screen that way. But if you use Edge as your preferred browser, and you can pull Copilot in Edge, but otherwise, if you're using Chrome or Firefox, you can go into either, I'm going to put this in the chat, M365 Copilot.com or office.com. And once you log in with your institution's credentials, you'll have access to Copilot Chat that way. And then if you have a Windows device with Windows 11, you'll be able to use the app. You may have seen it in your toolbar. It's like a little rainbow looking Skittle. That's what I call it. It's technically two hands holding each other, which I don't see, but the little rainbow Skittle should come up in your toolbar. And then there are mobile apps. That mobile app is actually the M365 Copilot app for Android or iOS. You would log in there too, and you'd have access just like you would from the web. And then I mentioned the addition to the M365 apps. So we pulled Copilot Chat availability into the most used apps, right? The most popular ones, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. I'll walk through what that looks like later. And then recently, a couple of weeks ago, we announced the availability of Copilot Chat in certain learning management systems. So a lot of different ways to have that chat experience depending on what your preference is. These slides, this next slide is really for reference. I'm going to walk through all of this step by step when we go into the live demo. The large language model that we're using. So right now, with chat, we announced that OpenAI's latest model, GPT-5, is available in Copilot Chat. We have a partnership with OpenAI, and part of that partnership means that our goal is to have the latest models that are available within 30 days of release in Copilot Chat. So if you're using ChatGPT and you're saying, oh, ChatGPT has a new model, our promise is that or our goal is that we will have that model available in Copilot Chat at no additional cost to you within 30 days with that enterprise data protection. So what does it mean now that GPT-5 is available? So today, when you prompt in Copilot Chat, it's sent to a traditional model. Currently, it's GPT-4 Omni. That's what it's set to default, which is a variant that's optimized for speed and accuracy. With the release of GPT-5, that brings two major upgrades to Copilot Chat, the advanced reasoning models, and then an automated real-time router. So when you type a prompt in with GPT-5 turned on, instead of going directly to GPT-4 Omni, the system now uses a real-time router that analyzes your prompt and then decides if it's simple to go to a faster model for concise answers. And then if it's complex, it routes to GPT-5 advanced reasoning, which is more thoughtful and context aware. Those reasoning models are now part of the mainline Copilot Chat for the first time. It allows Copilot to better understand and process complex data, especially when user context might be missing. So you'll see chain of thought reasoning in the responses and shows you how Copilot builds its understanding step by step. Users don't need to choose the model here. It does it automatically for you, which removes some friction and makes advanced capabilities accessible to everyone. So this model is available for all, and I will show you what that looks like in real time during the demo as well. So we'll prompt on both ends. There is the availability to collaborate with pages. So as you prompt with Copilot and you see a response that makes sense, or you want to edit a bit and then work together with a colleague or fellow student, you can pull that response into a page that is shared. Everything is kept connected and persistent workspace that saves automatically, and you can work together in real time. You have the availability or the ability to generate custom images. The option to use Copilot's voice features so you could work hands-free. This is also for accessibility. You could do voice to text and Copilot Chat. You can attach files. So whether it's a document, PDF, Excel spreadsheet, PowerPoint, you can add up to 4 documents per interaction and up to 20 documents per conversation. I often either attach a screenshot or take a picture. I travel a lot for work. So sometimes what I do is I'll take a picture of the hotel gym and say, hey, trying to maintain my routine. Here are the equipment I have available to me, and it will build it out for me. So you could use photos as well. If you're using Copilot with Edge, Copilot will summarize whatever web page you're on, as well as PDFs that are open in Edge. And then there's the availability of performing calculations with Code Interpreter. Copilot will code in different languages as well. And then the other piece here was the availability of Copilot Chat and those M365 apps. We really wanted to design an experience that integrates seamlessly into users' workflows. So allowing real-time chat while working on documents makes collaboration and efficiency a lot better. Users can reason over their open file, which means they can ask questions and receive insights directly related to the work that they're in that same window. And we'll take a look at what that looks like in a bit. So let me switch over. And what you should be seeing now is my browser. And so I mentioned earlier that I am going to demo from the web browser just because it's easier for me to share my screen that way. I am using my own login. So I am Renata Ruiz at Microsoft. This little green shield up at the top is letting me know that enterprise data protection is applying to this chat because I'm logged in with my work credentials. Because I am logged in with my work credentials, you're going to see that I have a work tab, and that's because I'm also licensed for that M365 Copilot. We're not going to talk about work. We're going to stay in web. So a couple of things to know about the user experience. That Try GPT-5 button is up at the top. This little purple square is where we would start a new chat. We could also drop down and start a temporary chat. So if we wanted Copilot to not remember the conversation, not build memories based off of what we chatted, we could turn temporary chat on. It would not be saved in your conversation history. This ellipses here allows us to open up recent pages, send any feedback to Microsoft, and then I want to open settings so we could talk a little bit more about those memories and personalization. So let's go down to personalization here. And you'll see that I have all of these settings turned on. So I can create custom instructions for Copilot and edit those. I haven't built any, but I could say, I want feedback. I want to use bullet points for summaries, avoid long paragraphs. So I could save all of these instructions. I could also write out my own if I wanted to. Work profile means that it's understanding who I am within my organization, who my teammates are, who my manager is. Saved memories. When we go into manage saved memories here, basically based off of my conversations with Copilot, Copilot infers some things about me. So I prefer honest and direct feedback. I prefer communication and bullet points. My time management is deadline driven. So I could, if any of these seem incorrect, I could go in and delete them individually. I could also delete all memories and start fresh. And then down at the bottom, I have chat history turned on. So basically, I want Copilot to use my past chats to help with responses. I want it to remember what I've talked about in the past. Let's close out of here and keep looking at this page. So here's where we would chat. We would type things in. This plus button is where we add content. So work, upload files and images, any cloud files in my OneDrive. Tools is for agents, which we'll talk about later. This microphone button here is where we could do voice to text. These little tiles here are some prompt suggestions. Like if I was stuck and I wasn't sure what I wanted to prompt about. And then this prompt gallery down at the bottom actually pulls up some additional prompt suggestions that I can filter by task, job type, or agent. Okay. So I'm going to open up this side panel, which is a navigation pane. And you'll see that we're in chat right now. I have agents that I work with regularly pinned. I could open all agents here, and we'll do that later. I also can create an agent. I'm gonna minimize this. And then conversations. Here are some conversations I've had. I can delete or rename things here. When I click all conversations, I have the ability to go in and look at all the conversations I've had recently. I could also search for conversations here by keyword. So anything I've pulled up about dogs. We're going to go into library a little bit later. So let's go back to chat. And we are going to prompt. So I am going to prompt and use a PDF as an attachment. So I'm going to say, I am a student at SUNY New Paltz. Can you give me a summary of the key points in this document? And I hit / because I could attach a document that way. I could also attach the document here and upload it. I'm going to use / and I start typing the name and that's not what I wanted. I wanted this handbook. So it's a SUNY New Paltz student handbook. Put everything in bullet format and bold anything really important. Okay, so now it's going to go across that PDF based off of what my request was. So there it is. So it's bulleting, right? It's bolding, key points. Great. I'm going to keep scrolling. Now, it's telling me if I need more details or want a one-page handout, let me know. It's giving me some additional prompts down at the bottom. And then I want to point out these buttons down here. So sources, it's going to tell me that there's no direct citation, right? I didn't really ask it to do anything but use that specific document. So that's that source that it's using. I can copy this whole response by clicking on that. It's copied. I could paste it somewhere. I could tell Copilot it did a good job. I could tell Copilot it didn't do such a good job. I can share this prompt. So it's going to create a link for the prompt and the response with someone. And then I can edit in Pages, which we're going to do in a second. And then I could also have it read it out loud to me or open the whole thing in Word. I'm going to click Edit in Pages. Let's say I am working with a friend on creating bullets based off of this document. When I click Edit in Pages, it will pull the entire prompt response into a page. And then in that page, I can delete or make edits. I could go in and bold here or highlight, right? I could keep working on this. Up at the top, you're going to see that I can create either a document or presentation based off of this page component. And then when I hit share, I can share a link to this page, right? Let's say I wanted to share this with my coworker, Katie, so that we can work on it together. I could send that link over to her, and then she would appear here with me. And then we could collaborate in real time. And then I could also add it to a notebook. Now, let's close out of it. That page will live in the conversation, will also be accessed here in recent pages, and can be accessed in my library. So there it is. Let's go back. So I can continue prompting. So let me say, can you create a Word document with all this information? So we're going to let that work. It's going to create the Word document for me to download. It's taking a little longer than usual. There it goes. So there's an analysis of what it did. There's the code. And then I can download that Word document. And it's going to open it up as a file for me. There it is. Easy peasy. So let's close that out. I want to show you what GPT-5 does. So I'm going to click Try GPT-5. And this time I'm going to prompt it using a PDF and an Excel spreadsheet. And this is going to, as it does it, it's going to automatically decide based off of my prompt if we need the faster model or if we need deeper reasoning. So let's say I am part of a fantasy football league. Here it is. At work, based off my lineup in this document. So based off my lineup, here's my lineup. And this document, which is basically a write-up on how to do well, help me make decisions so I can win week 9. So here we go. It's going to assess what my needs are. And depending on those needs, and it seems to be taking, it's going to do some deeper reasoning, right? So it routed to the deeper reasoning model. It's going to give me all of the steps that it's doing. So it's confirming details for the analysis, gathering NFL data. It's probably going to reason for a good amount of time. So let's give it a minute to do that, because I think it's important to see what the differences are here. All right, still going. It's making an analysis. When it's done, it's going to tell me how long it reasoned for. And it's going to give me, there it goes. So it reasoned for 79 seconds. I could go in and look at all of the things it did, right? So there it is. There's the reasoning. And now it's giving me all of the my optimal lineup. Bench notes, what I should do, start sit decisions, too long didn't read. And then I want to point out the sources here. So here are all of the sources that it used in order to help me make my decision. So I could go in and into any of these to see where it pulled information from. You'll also find the sources listed under each little bullet here. So it's telling you exactly how what it used to make the decision. And I could continue, say, yep, let's create a printable lineup card, and I'll continue to prompt it. Yeah, Jeremy, I have Josh Allen. So I actually don't watch football. I've never watched an entire game of football in my entire life. But I was added to this fantasy football league here at work. And I noticed that I was the only woman. And while I dislike football, I would hate giving my spot up to another man more. And so I decided to just use Copilot the whole time, since for the most part, men seem to be pretty emotional about sports and use a lot of emotion when making their decisions, while I'm just using information and stats. So Josh Allen has served me well. So that is the difference here between having GPT-5 on versus just using GPT-5, a GPT-4 Omni. So you could toggle between them. So there's that printable lineup card that it created in Word for me, so I could do that. All right. Let's actually go into, let's go into Word. So I'm going to open this document here. All right, so here's a document. It is a real document that I received. My family and I decided last week or the week before that we were ready for a dog. We had a dog for 15 years who passed in April of 2024. And, it took some time for grieving. And anyway, so I applied, put in an application for this rescue for a dog. And we met the dog and it was great. And they sent over the contract. And it was like 12 pages long or 11 pages long. And there were some things in there that made me a little bit nervous. And I was like, you know what? Let me just run this through Copilot and see if my gut is correct. And so let's open Copilot here on the side. And I said, can you please review this dog rescue contract and let me know if there are any red flags? If there are, create a list of questions I should ask the rescue before signing. Okay, so I was right. There are some red flags here. So here are the red flags. And here are some questions I should ask. And then I could continue prompting and ask it to do whatever I need it to do. So I have this document open. I could prompt against it in Copilot Chat right in the same window. For those of you wondering, this dog did not work out for us because I did send the questions over to the rescue, and they were basically like, because you're asking so many questions, we no longer feel comfortable giving you the dog. And I was like, you know what? Then that dog's not meant to be. I ended up applying through another rescue for a dog. The dog is perfect. She's amazing. We're all very happy. But I I would never sign anything without reading it. And now I'm having Copilot run through a lot of the things that are pretty worthy and I want like additional help with. So there you go. That is one way to use Copilot in Word. Let's go into PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm going to open a presentation here. Let's open this one. And so it's not a really long presentation, but there's a couple of slides. And let's say I don't have time to read all of this. I could go into Copilot here and I could have it summarize the presentation. So it's going to go across the presentation that I have open and give me a summary of all of the things. Key takeaways, you know, what do I want to do? And I could say, I'm presenting this to a group of IT professionals at educational institutions, specifically higher ed, and you draft speaker notes for each slide. Now, I kept those typos in there because Copilot is using natural language. And so here it goes. And so, Paul, I'm seeing your question in the chat. This integration right now, I'm in web. You don't need to have Copilot, M365 Copilot to use Copilot Chat in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and Outlook with specific features available to you. So in this case, everything I'm showing you right now does not require the additional license. So here it is. It gave me those speaker notes. Now, this slide, this deck is actually great for your question, Paul. I'm going to close out of here because it's telling you what's available to you. So we're right here. We're talking about this column. You could use web data. You could use that chat interface, and it's reasoning over the currently open file. So that's all available to you without a Copilot license, which is what I've been demoing. Now, if I wanted Copilot to generate a PowerPoint presentation for me with based off of a specific template for my institution, that does require that M365 Copilot license. But today, what I'm talking about is just these little things that I'm showing. I'm not going into this piece. Paul, does that answer your question? Okay, great. Let's go into Excel. So I'm going to open this large sample data set that I have. And it's rows and rows and rows of data. It's not real, but I'm going to go into Copilot here. And again, I'm still in that web and I could have it analyze all of this data for me very quickly. It's not going to make changes because, again, this is the free version of what you have available. But I can continue prompting in here and asking Copilot to help me with formulas or understand how to build things, as long as it is open to that specific file. And then, of course, Outlook. So in this case, again, we're in the web. When you're using Copilot Chat and Outlook, it's not going to be able to look through all of your email for you. That requires the M365 Copilot license. I am going to go to a specific message here. I really need to get through email today. Where is it? Here. Okay, so this message came from my colleague Darren, and I could say, because I'm open to this specific message, suggest my next step. It's going to read that email. and it's going to give me some suggestions. Okay, so there it goes. Suggest the next steps, a suggested reply. And so I could copy and paste this over. Now with that M365 Copilot license, I could have done that all from the email itself, and it would have automatically generated the email. I could ask additional questions, but what you have access to at no additional cost is opening a specific email thread and then prompting against it. Okay, let's think about some best practices when prompting. So prompting is significantly different than searching, which is what we're used to. And so when we Google something or Bing something, we're normally just typing in a couple of keywords and maybe using some quotation marks and then going through and searching ourselves for what makes sense. When we're prompting, we're having a conversation with Copilot. So you need to use plain but clear language and provide context like you would with an assistant. Sometimes that assistant really gets it right away. Sometimes that assistant is a little more like Amelia Bedelia and might need some redirection. And so in order to write an effective prompt, there are some key elements that are important to remember. So providing context, why do you need it and who is involved? Your goal, what responses do you want from Copilot? Um, Sources, what information, sources, or samples do you want Copilot to use? You can attach files, you can request specific sites, and then expectations. How should Copilot respond? Do you want it as a Word document? Do you want it as a table? To best meet your expectations. So we found that when you are prompting, including these elements really makes for better interactions with Copilot. So here is an example. The context being I work in marketing and focus on competitor research. The goal, give me a concise summary of recent news about company name. The focus, the source, focus on web articles from the last 2 months. And then those expectations, provide the answer in 2 to 3 paragraphs and use a business tone. So as you prompt more and more in Copilot, you'll find your own style. But remembering to use at least a couple of these key elements will create a more productive and satisfying interaction with Copilot. There are some best practices to think about. So aside from using those key elements, prompt length and clarity matter. So if it's too short, you're going to get generic results. If it's too long, if you're typing out a paragraph of instructions, Copilot might not follow all of the instructions in your paragraph. The sweet spot is about 25 to 30 words, making sure that it's clear and be specific about what you want Copilot to do. If you are requesting Copilot do something a little more complex, it's probably best to break that problem down into multiple steps. So don't cram too many questions or requests into one prompt. Using a step-by-step approach has some benefits, right? Each step provides more clarity and focus. There's more structured thinking behind it, so there's a logical progression of ideas. It's manageable, not overwhelming. It also provides some flexibility so that you can adjust or refine at each stage while Copilot is working for you. And then expanding on each section individually also allows Copilot to give you more depth and detail. So a lot of times what I'll say to Copilot is like, this is what I want you to complete. I'm going to give you the information in chunks or step by step. And then Copilot's like, got it, let's go. And it will even prompt me to give it the next step. Persona-based prompting. So that dog adoption contract, I could have said, act as my legal counsel and respond. So giving it a persona, you can tailor those prompts to get more precise and specialized outcomes. This way you can receive like tailored guidance or solutions for different scenarios, making your interaction with Copilot more efficient and focused. And then the final one here is to ask Copilot what it needs from you. So sometimes if Copilot is missing the mark, I'll kind of pump the brakes a little bit and say, hey, Copilot, it doesn't seem like you are understanding what my request is. What information is missing? What else do you need from me in order to get this done? Or I do it up front and say, this is what I'm trying to do. What do you need in order to be successful? And it will give me a list of questions, and I'll answer that, and then it'll go and do what I need it to do. All right, so let's pause. Doesn't look like there are any questions. I don't see any in the Q&A. All right, we're going to move into agents. So at Microsoft, there are many different solutions or tools for agent creation. Agents aren't anything new. And really, it's kind of like a chatbot. It's not, we're just calling them agents now. So what you're seeing here is the range of tools. Today, we are living in this agent builder, or what we're calling Copilot Studio Lite. It is for end users. These are very basic search and retrieve agents. If you needed a more customizable piece, like you wanted your agent to live on a specific website, or if you wanted your agent to trigger a specific action, that would push us into Copilot Studio. There is a version of me as a specialist for Copilot Studio that I'm more than happy to set you up with. But today we are doing this very fun agent builder Copilot Studio Lite search and retrieve basic agents. The agents that we are building today are grounded on the web or instructions, and those are free. There's no additional cost to that. If you wanted to build an agent that was grounded on a specific document, and I'll show you an example of what that is, that would require a consumption model behind it. It would need to consume messages so that people could interact with that agent. Today, again, if you're building an agent that's strictly on public-facing websites, it does not need a consumption model. Before I do anything else, I'm going to pause and see if anything I said was confusing. Okay. All right, so just like I mentioned earlier, some of these, oh, it looks like a question came in. Okay, Adam, so yeah, so Copilot Studio, the license for Copilot Studio is a $0 license, but it needs to be assigned to you from IT because it's really more designed as low code and for like a maker space. Anything that you build in Copilot Studio does need a consumption piece or like something to consume against. So those agents have more customizations and does require something to consume against. You can build agents until you're blue in the face with a Copilot Studio license without needing anything. But in order for those agents to be deployed and used, that requires a consumption model. Just a little bit more about consuming. So we have what we call message packs. Those message packs are 25,000 messages per month. You could order a message pack through your reseller, which I believe is SHI, and then any agents that are built either in Copilot Studio or an agent builder that is grounded on a specific document would consume against that specific message pack. Can I clarify my last statement with respect to agents that consume public websites? Okay, yeah, so if you build an agent that is just using public-facing websites, right? So all of the web, or if you have a specific website from your institution that you want the agent to answer from, that does not consume anything. That is free. That you can build that agent, share it with everyone. Everyone can use it, and it's not going to consume anything. It only starts consuming when you are grounding it on like work or work data. So like a SharePoint site or specific PDFs or your OneDrive that requires a consumption or an M365 Copilot license. Does that help, Paul? Okay. If at any point you want me, Adam, how about we unmute you? Does that help? All right, let's unmute Adam. Go ahead, Adam.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So with the non-Copilot Studio version of the Agent Builder,
Mhm.
I've looked into that a little bit. I've created agents with it, and it looks like I can share them, but not publicly. Does that sound right?
So depending on your institution, and where are you from, Adam?
Finger Lakes Community College.
Okay, so are you IT side of the house or are you a student?
I'm a librarian, but I oversee library technology, so I work closely with IT.
Okay, so what I would do is I would hit up IT and say, "Hey, is this disabled?"
Mhm.
Because you should be able, if it's not consuming against anything in like graph data, you should
Mhm.
be able to click share agent and copy that link and share it either to specific groups in your organization or to everyone in the organization.
Okay. What about that? Now that I do have, if it's, let's say we wanted to make it public to non-organizational, like anyone who visits the website, is
Hmm.
there a way to do that as well?
Yes. So that pushes us into Copilot Studio. So
Okay,
with
that's got
Agent
it.
Builder and the Copilot Studio Lite is what we're calling it.
Mhm.
Um, that agent can only live in Copilot Chat. So
Okay.
wherever you pull Copilot Chat up, you could use that agent in Copilot Chat. Now, if that agent is like spectacular and you want it to live on a public facing website so that everyone can access it, that would be a Copilot Studio request
Mhm.
and would require a consumption model.
Got it. Okay. And then the consumption model's based on, I think if I'm hearing it correctly, at least two different things. So we have the number of questions that can be asked of it, as
Mhm.
well as the type of data that's feeding it. So it's non-public data. And those are the
Correct.
two things that make it a consumption model part of Copilot Studio.
Correct.
Okay, got it. That answers everything. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad because we make this clear as mud. And so I want to make sure that like it makes sense. And I think maybe as we move through the demo and we talk about like some use cases that will also help a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Anyone else need to be unmuted? How do they get to your agent if it needs to be in Copilot Chat? I will demo that, Paul. Okay, let's get to that. Actually, wait. There are some slides here. Again, all for reference, letting you know that you could create your own agent using natural language, so no code. And then you would write a description and some instructions. You'd let it know what knowledge base you want it to access, any capabilities or suggested prompts. And we're going to do that in the demo. Now, all of these little pieces here, description and instructions, you could you could absolutely say, I know exactly what type of agent I want. I'm going to write my description out. I know what instructions I want to use. However, I prefer to use Copilot Chat as a hack to write it for me. And so let's do that. Okay. I'm going to go into um, back to Copilot Chat. We're going to start a new chat here. Actually, let's go into those agents. So here's that agent piece for me. Here are my agents that I have pinned, any agents that I've built recently. I'm going to hit all agents, and it's going to open up what we call the agent store. Now, I call it the agent catalog because you're not buying anything here. You're just previewing what you have access to. So here are all the agents I've built. I need to clean this up. And then anything that was built by Microsoft, and I'm pretty sure you have access to some of these like Prompt Coach at no additional cost as well. Anything that was built by your org. So let's say IT was like, these agents are super important and they want to push it out to you as a user. That's where you would find this. Anything that was shared with me with this is my teammate, anything that's popular in my organization. And then here I could create an agent. I could also create an agent up at the top. I could also create an agent from here. So let's just click one of these. And when I click that, it's pulling it up in the configure piece. Here's where I could like type in the name, the description, all of this. I'm actually going to go into describe for a couple of reasons. So here is that no code chat natural language way of building your agent. So I could describe what I want to do here. I could also use any of these templates as a starting point, and we'll do that later. For now, I'm actually going to type and chat with Agent Builder here. But I mentioned that I like hacking this a little bit and using Copilot Chat to help me write my description and my instructions. I do this a lot, and sometimes my brain is like, you know what? Let's have Copilot help. So here's a prompt that I use, and I'm going to share this prompt with you later. Telling Copilot, I want you to act as an agent expert creator. I'm going to share an idea with you, and then I want you to write the description and the instructions for the behavior for me. So Copilot's going to be like, yeah, let's go. Tell me your idea. All right. So my idea is I want to build an agent for, here we go. This one, let's do this one. I want to build an agent for SUNY students across the entire system that will help them decide on graduate courses and programs across the entire SUNY system based off of their current major, academic interests, and career goals. I want it to be an advisor and only suggest SUNY schools. Updated my memory. So it knows it's going to remember this later. All right. So here's the description. It did it for me. It even gave me a name. It gave me the key capabilities and then the agent behavior instructions, right? Okay. Now, I'm still the human in the room. It's still my idea. I could go in and completely edit this, but for the sake of time, and I think this is pretty solid, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Let's start with the description. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, this is what I'm doing. And we're going to let Copilot do its thing. So it's reasoning. And as it reasons, this sandbox experience is going to change. So there it goes. It's already building my agent for me. And usually when you use the describe version of describe side of things, Copilot's going to prompt you in pretty much the same way. It's going to say, what's your idea? Let's choose a name. Tell me what behaviors you want it to do. So in this case, it said, here's the name. Sounds great. So it's going to change it up here. There it goes. And now it's probably going to ask me what behaviors or instructions I want it to do. Any limitations, like what do we want it to do? So here's the agent behavior instructions. Here's the tone. Copy and paste, right? So sounds about right. Be encouraging, student-centered, avoid jargon, ask follow-up questions, prompt for their current major. Um, Okay, see, I'm making a couple of edits here. Avoid sounding robotic or overly formal. Okay, so there we go. And now it's going to adjust a little bit here. I'm going to switch over. This is squeezing my head. I'm assuming you could still hear me. Let's go with yes. All right, so there we go. And now the final step is do we want to add any knowledge sources now? And it's telling you that you could do this later. I'm going to skip this part because now I'm going to push myself over into this configure tab. So let's check out what it did. It literally copied over the description and then the instructions for me. And now in knowledge, here's where I could add up to 4 publicly facing websites or all websites, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit all websites here. Now, if you're following along or trying to see if this looks the same for you, again, I'm licensed for M365 Copilot, so I have the option of adding files, sites, chats. You might not see that because you don't have either a consumption model set up or an M365 Copilot license, but you should have the availability of adding websites, and that's what we're doing here. Now, if I had grounded it on 4 specific websites, I could turn this on, and then this agent would only answer based off of that information. But we're kind of making this like a generic type of advisor, and so we're just going to use all websites here. Sure, we can add the capabilities. Let's say we do want it to create documents, charts, and code for whoever uses it. And then these are my suggested prompts that come up here. I could change them if I wanted to, but I'm going to keep it as is for now. And I could even add a logo. So there we go. I think this looks good. Let's hit create. And it is going to create my agent for me. Okay, so now it's telling me that my agent is created successfully. It's currently private and only available to me. So when I hit share here, I could decide to share it with specific users or anyone in my organization. I would copy this link, put it in an email, a chat, a team site, a website, and then whenever anyone clicked that link, it would open up the agent in Copilot Chat. Okay, let's go to the agent. And this process takes a little time, so let's give it a sec. There it goes. And so now we're in the agent that I just built, and I could start prompting. Now, one of the workarounds around not getting it to consume against something is that you still have the option of attaching content, right? So if I were a student and I said, here's my transcript and added that content, tell me what I should do next, the agent would use that and still with enterprise data protection, right? So I'm going to say, I am a junior at SUNY Portland. I'm studying psychology. I think I should think about grad school soon. What should I do? And so we had set the instructions to be uplifting, right, and inspiring, and then ask a couple of questions maybe, reflect on my interests, explore SUNY graduate programs, right, and it's linking all of that, and then prepare for applications. It's giving me funding options. I think I want to be a school psychologist. What programs are available
at SUNY Portland or on campuses no more than 2 hours away. And so I can continue prompting and asking it additional questions. There it goes. And it's giving me all of the sources. And here are the sources down at the bottom. All right. Any questions so far? Let's build a agent from a template. And so I can use any of these templates here as a starting point. So Learning Coach, I think, is a good one when we think about academic spaces because it's a declarative agent that's designed for mastering specific subjects. So we can continue to describe any customizations we want to make here. So I can say, I am a professor of organic chemistry at a large state school. My students are really struggling, and I want an easy agent to as a tutor. So it's going to continue to prompt me, right? Just like it did before. It's going to change this up a little bit, and I could tailor that template for my specific case, right? So here it is. It's more focused on organic chemistry. And I'm going to say yes. It's going to change that name here. And I could share this out to my students, and they would have the ability to play around with it. It's going to continue to prompt me. Again, no code here, very easy, and it will customize that, right? So what specific tasks, what do I want it to do? So again, you can build an agent with a template. And then I promised I would show you the agents that are grounded on specific documents, and I'm actually going to go into this one, Penn Faculty Navigator. I'm going to hover over this and hit edit just so you could see what it's configured on. And so this agent was built for UPenn. It is for faculty members to navigate specific policies. There are the instructions, right? Avoid legal advice, do not provide personal opinions. And you'll see that I have that toggle on for restricting my agent to use that only that specified source. And the only source I got here is this PDF in a SharePoint. That PDF is 174 pages of super exciting information. And so when we use this agent, then I say, I'd like to take a sabbatical. Can I just let my boss know by emailing them? And so it's going to look just in that document to answer my question. Nope. Apparently I can't just email my boss letting them know I'm taking a sabbatical. And then it's giving me the process. It's linking the document. I need a formal application. Now, if I asked it something that is not listed in this document at all, like what are the steps to renew my parking pass? It's going to tell me, like, I don't have that information. I'm built for this specific reason. So it does not contain any information about parking, and it's recommending something. Okay, so those are 3 different ways to build agents. This one is grounded on work data, which would require either an M365 Copilot license for a person to use it or a consumption model. Right. Let's go back here. Here's that prompt that I used to hack in Copilot Chat. And then there are links here for all types of resources for Copilot Chat, for agents. There's some education use cases for you all to think about. Any additional training, our updates and blogs. I would highly recommend checking our roadmap and our education blog. And then my email address, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn here. I'm going to stop talking. If you have additional questions, please raise your hand. Chris will unmute you and you can ask it. Adam. See, can I unmute you? There you go. See if you can unmute.
Yep, I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
My question is on drift, and I guess there's two parts to it. So with Copilot in general, how does Microsoft work to prevent drift-related inaccuracies? With the AI agents, and I guess this is more specific to the Copilot Studio ones where we can control the data more. So there won't be so much data drift, but potentially concept drift. Is there any data on accuracies or inaccuracies with that?
That's a great question, Adam, and I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I'm gonna make a note to get that to you, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do know that in every interaction with Copilot, we'll be like, this is AI content, please check for accuracy, like,
Mhm.
and including those sources are key.
Mhm.
But in terms of like drift itself, I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but I'll find out.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? All right, I think we're good, Chris. Thank you so much for joining. You'll have access to the PDF of this presentation as well as the recording, Chris said by next week. I have done this now 9 times. And so the recordings may vary a little bit, but not by much. So if you want to watch all of them and torture yourself, have at it. Chris, thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.